is Miss Stacy, and welcome to Miss Stacy's Homestead. And today we're going to be canning beef stew, or beef soup, and we're going to be using Tattler lids. So, now I lost the beginning of my footage where I made the beef broth, but I used the beef broth from my fat I rendered. And then I added about 5 quarts of water and some beef bouillon, and I did 3 giant serving spoons, heaping serving spoons of the beef bouillon in there, and then added a handful of black pepper, 2 of my canned jars of stewed tomatoes, and then the secret ingredient, which is my fermented pepper vinegar juice. So my grandma is the one that taught me how to make it. We used to call it stone soup because we read a book about people making soup out of various things. And so she used trapeze peppers, and she would use the vinegar from the trapeze peppers and then put a hot pepper in there while we cooked it for about 4 hours. So this is my grandma's recipe, and that's what you have to put in. You have to put in the pepper and the vinegar for it to taste like hers. So, but I decided to use my fermented peppers, and that's it. I put about half a cup of the juice, the pepper juice, in that. And if I was going to not can it, I would have added also jalapeno peppers, or just a real pickled pepper, not a jalapeno pepper, a pickled pepper. And then you fish them out before you eat it, and so nobody be eating something spicy on accident. But sometimes you do lose those peppers. And then I layered the jars with, I also lost this footage, but I layered the jars with potato, got some taters in there, and got some beef, celery, carrots, a little bit of tomato, and cabbage, and that's it. Oh, corn and green beans from my freezer because I needed to get rid of those. But this is the type of soup you can add anything you want to it. So if you don't have those vegetables, add different vegetables. It's the broth that really matters. So as long as your broth is good, any vegetables you can add. So, and I will be picking up where I left off. Okie dokie, here we go. Okay. All right, so now that I have these jars filled, almost filled, so this is what I'm gonna make some more space. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it and we're gonna just shake it a little, just jiggle them. I'm going to jiggle each one of these, just try to get these down in there into spaces, because I still have to add some green beans. And you want to pack them, because what happens when you pressure can, things shrink. There. Alright, so we got those packed in. Now we got to add some green bean to top it all off. So I'm going to put some green bean in each one, and it's all going to shrink down more when I add the hot broth, and then when you cook it, it's all going to condense even more. So we got to keep it under that inch mark because we're using Tattlers, and no matter your recipe with Tattlers, it has to be 1 inch headspace, no matter what. Even jellies. If you were to use Tattler lids and you're making jams, you still have to use a 1 inch headspace. Then we're going to add some tomato to each one. So, still got tomato to put in each one. A little tomato in each one of these. They look really pretty, don't they? I love canning. Everything looks so beautiful when you're done. I think I'm one of these. Yeah, that one has extra. That's okay. A little extra won't hurt. And you know, this is one of the other things. I use Tatler lids with soups because whatever doesn't seal, if I don't have one that seals, then we get to have dinner. So that way I'm not, oh no, it didn't seal, I have to reprocess. We're going to eat it. Alright, so now we're going to add the broth. And I tasted the broth and it tastes really delicious. And taste it again. It's so good. It's so rich. I should probably add just another cup of water in here. I'm going to add just a little bit of pint of water to my broth. Because I probably need that anyways. And this is a good broth just to drink by itself when you have a sore throat. And yeah, I double dip, but I'm canning it and it's going to kill the germs. So you can add a little bit more salt because I just diluted it. And so the beef bouillon has its own salt, but I think it just needs some more regular salt. You know what I mean? Let's stir that. Alright. Oh yeah. Probably a little bit more salt because the salt is going to get absorbed by those vegetables too. Okay. And so a lot of people will just add salt afterwards, after they can it, when they open it and get ready to eat. But I think about this. Think if you're in a situation where you have no salt or there's an emergency and you want to eat the food, you want to already be able to have it flavored. That's what I think anyways. That way in a worst case scenario, it's all seasoned and ready to go instead of, you know, one day you wake up and you have to find food and there's no salt and you have yucky food. Okay, so let's get the ladle and let's get to this. Okie dokie, so we have our canner going with, I have a mirror, and with the mirror, I put 3 quarts of water into it. Now you want your water temperature to be the same temperature as your jars. So I'm having warm broth. Is making my jars warmed up, so I'm warming up the water just a bit. And I don't want the water too hot because my jars aren't that hot. So I'm just warming it up right now. I have my lids in hot water. Tatler lids are all in hot water waiting. And now we're putting broth in. And we're going to put the broth in to 1-inch headspace. Probably a little bit more, because it'll probably sink in and fill in all these spaces. So let's do this, each one of these. These jars look so beautiful. So this is my grandma's and my Aunt Reba's recipe. So if my family's watching this, this is exactly how they taught me how to make it. And I made it all the time over there. So, but in a pot and not in a jar. And you just add what you have. If you don't have these vegetables, then don't add them. Add a different vegetable. But the broth is the key. The broth is how it tastes. And that secret ingredient for this broth is the pepper. The pepper vinegar. It just gives it that unique flavor. So we're just going to go a little over the inch mark because we're going to debubble and we're going to lose some volume here. Anyway, let me get a chopstick. I don't know where my debubbler went to. So we are just going to, let's just use this. We're just going to use the end of this thing in the jigger. We're going to just poke in there. You want to debubble real good with this stuff. It's just, there's a lot of spaces it can go into. And you're debubbling just to reduce your chance of seal failure, you know. And then we'll go into each jar and debubble the little suckers. Alright, so after debubbling, you are most likely going to need to add more liquid. And so we're going to do that. We're going to go through and just add a little more liquid to each jar that is needed. Just a little more liquid in that one. A little in this one. Okie dokie, so we're done putting the broth in. Now we're just going to wipe our rims with vinegar. Vinegar cuts grease real well, and that will keep the gaskets nice and clean with good contact for hopefully a good seal. So we want to clean the area really well with hot water or vinegar or both, and I'm going to do both because this was a messy one. I'm going to get a new one. I like to do little pieces and make sure get new ones in there. Oh, my dog's barking because he wants to go out front with Dad. But Dad's doing yard work. And the dogs like to see what's going on, and we don't want them to get hurt. So, alright. My hands are clean, and the water's cooled down enough for me to handle these. So we're going to put my rings in the warm water. I like to warm my rings up too. So we're going to put this on, okay? So let's do this one right here. We're going to put it on, okay? Then we're going to center it. Put your finger over it, okay? Now you're going to turn. And then, you see how it just turns by itself? Well then, you turn just a little bit more until you get that resistance. So, just a little bit more, and then that is it. There, that's it. And put it in the canner. And put it over here in the canner. I'll just put it, put it right there. Okay, so the next one, we'll do the next one. Some of these, I used to write in permanent marker on these, but I stopped doing that. Also, it's a good thing to check to see, I've reused these several times, so it's good to check to see where the lines are. And I mean, I forget to sometimes, and it doesn't seem to make too much of a difference, but they say to make sure you don't get cross threading. So put the parts where you see lines down, just for evenness. Alright, so make sure it's centered. Put your lid on. Hold it and start twisting. See, I get a little bit resistance, and then I just turn that little bit more until it makes me want to stop turning naturally. Just a tiny bit more. Alright, so we're going to do each one. I'm going to show you, because a lot of people, last time I only showed 3 and people asked me to show more, so put it on like this. And I've been doing Tatler lids for 2 years, a little over 2 years actually. And this is how you do it. And these are the new ones. These are the easy seals. They aren't the older ones, so these are the easy seals. So keep on going. Turn, you get a little resistance. Then you're going to turn it just a little bit more until it's like, stop, don't turn anymore, until it's not loose. So, yeah, just like that. If you don't do it tight enough, they'll pop off, but if you do it too tight, they will not have vent and then also pop off. So you have to do it just right. It takes a little bit of learning. Little learning curve here. Put your gasket on. Put it there, center it. And in my last video I did, I was canning, and sometimes you'll accidentally get two gaskets, and that's something you gotta watch out for, because the gaskets stick together. So try not to get two gaskets on there, because then it won't work. So put it on, make sure it's centered, start it. Okay, so it's gonna get a little bit of turn in there, and then you hold it, and then turn until like it stops naturally, like a light turn. And then if you turn any more, it's going to be really too hard to turn. So let's do another one, and I won't talk this time, you can just watch. So go like that, put the lid on. I think, like, I said I wasn't going to talk, so I think I get about 3 turns. 1, 2, 3, like that, before it starts, always before it starts doing that. Then there's a little bit of, like, the point where you would need to crank it. You don't want to do that. You just want to turn it until it gets to that point. So let me do it again. 1, 2, 3, then crank, turn. There. Again. That seemed a little, some of these get a little rusty. I don't like that. A little rusty on the inside, and it just doesn't go smooth enough when that happens. So I'm not going to use that one. So let's do one that doesn't have a little rust on it. Just don't use it. It's not even worth the risk to use one with rust on it, because it just won't work. I've tried it. I mean, it might, but and you can either get rid of the rusty rings, or you can sand it. Some people sand it off. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll turn. Put it on. Put the lid on. Doesn't work. No, 2 gaskets. That's good. Let's hold it. Let's try it again. Okay, this one's not working. Why aren't you working? That just isn't gonna work, so we'll use a different one. See, use a different one. Try it again. There, it was the ring. Sometimes you have rings for some reason that just aren't, I don't know what's with that ring. I'll try it again on the next one, but so I'm going to do it again just to make sure. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that one's fine. Okie dokie, so now we're going to can these for 90 minutes because it has chunks of meat and corn and taters in there. So there's soups that you can can soup times if there's a little bit of meat in it. But because this has bigger chunks of meat, you want to do meat times, and it has the taters and corn. So it's 90 minutes for quarts and 75, I believe, for pints. So, we shall put the lid on now. So we're going to put the lid on. Already checked, make sure you check your vent and your gasket. So just put the lid on. All right, so we have our lid on, and we checked our vent to make sure it's all clear, our gasket's good, and we're bringing the heat up, and as the heat comes up, it's going to release a steady stream of steam. For 10 minutes, you have to let it vent for 10 minutes. This is part of the processing time, so you have to do that. And once it vents for 10 minutes, a steady stream of steam, then you put your weight on. And for my altitude, every altitude has a weight. So mine is 10 pounds. And then, because I am below sea level. So, 10 pounds, this goes on right when it comes up to after the 10 minutes of steam is released. And then after you put that on, you're going to wait until you hear the whistle or the steam. When the jiggler starts jiggling, then that's when you start your timer for the 90 minutes of processing time. And then when that's done, then you shut it off after 90 minutes. Keep the lid on and let it slowly cool down. Do not take that lid off for a while. And then what you're going to do after it slowly cools down, you're going to take the pressure gauge off and then let it cool down some more. And then you're going to crack it, let it cool down some more, and then you're going to open it up and then take your stuff out. But stages, you have to be patient, because if you just shut it off and then you just take your lid off, your lids will pop. You're going to get siphoning, and you're going to have like no fluid, and everything's going to siphon out. You don't want that to happen. You did all that work, you just take your time and let it cool down. It's just, and it'll be shelf stable for a very long time. Alright, I'll come back to you when that's done. Alright, so sometimes this is a mirror weight, so sometimes there's this spring inside, and sometimes it'll get stuck, like psh. It's supposed to go psh and pop down, but sometimes it'll just go psh. You don't want that. So you have to clean the grooves really good, because this little spring attachment spins. It spins. So you got to make sure you clean that really, really good. It'll get stuck on you if you don't have that clean. You can see that. So you need to clean that real good. And I clean it before and after, and it still gets yucky. And I also will lubricate it a little bit with some oil, just to help, because this thing needs to spin. This is a spinner. Miro spins. So, because it used to get stuck on me, and it took me the longest time to figure it out. And I finally figured it out. So that's the solution for y'all that have this and it's going to happen. That's your solution. It's the only solution. So I even bought a new one and it still didn't, the new one didn't work either. So. Okay, so I got a little bit of oil on this rag, and I'm just pushing it in the groove and spinning it. And look at all that stuff that comes off. You gotta clean it out real good, because it'll just get build up and it won't spin. It'll get stuck. And that's how you keep that clean. And I've had this for like 10 years, so, and it doesn't do that anymore. Alright, so it vented for a steady stream of steam for 10 minutes, and that's done. So now we're going to put our weight on. And then that's it. That's how you put it on. And this little sucker, there's a little pressure red button. You can't see it on this side, but there's a red button that pops up to lock it, so this lid won't open. It's a safety mechanism. And then that will sit here and probably take another 10 minutes just to start spitting steam out. And once it starts spitting steam out and spinning, then you start your timer for 90 minutes. Okie dokie, I'll show you when that comes around. Okay, so it's started venting steam, so we start our timer now for 90 minutes, and it should do this 4 or 5 times a minute. I turn my burner from high to medium, like it's on medium high now. So you just want to jiggle ever so often like that. So my burner, medium high, like it probably just medium might be good for you. So, and that's what you do. Wait for 90 minutes and then let the pressure go away and cool down slowly, and then we'll take them out. All right, so it's been like 40 minutes and everything should be cool enough to take out of the canner without any siphoning or anything. Let's cross our fingers that all goes well. Everything looks good in here. Now, if you see a reduction in fluid, it's usually because the product shrinks in here. There's not fluid loss. So that looks really good. Looks super good. So we're going to put it, where's my cutting board? I usually put it on a cutting board. If I can find my cutting board, I'll just put it on a rag. Okay, so I'll just put it on a rag here. All right. Then I'm gonna just show you. So right here, we're gonna take out like 3 of them, and then we'll take out 3 and then crank it down. 2, 3. So let's go back to the first one. We're gonna tighten it as tight as we can. The second one, tighten it as tight as we can. I'm gonna delete that. Go to the second one, tighten it as tight as we can. Third one, tighten it as tight as you can. And then you do that for all of them. Now metal lids, your regular metal lids, you don't do this. You don't have to do this. You put them on fingertip tight on regular lids, fingertip tight, and then when you take them out, you don't tighten them. But the Tattlers, you do. So, and then I also like to tighten them later after they start cooling down. I go back and tighten them a little bit too. So that's just what I like to do. I think I see a little bit of siphoning, which is normal. But I don't know which one it's from, and you should still get a seal. I mean, I don't know. I did it pretty perfect, so, and if there was any, there's maybe a tiny bit of siphoning. Or just the mess from the jar, because there's really nothing in there. It doesn't even smell. It could just be the outside of the jar getting cleaned. And then tighten them as tight as you can. As tight as you can. There you go. Okay, you need to go to the bathroom? Go to the bathroom. Okay, hold on. I'm almost done and we'll go to the bathroom. Alright. Shandon needs me just for a minute and then we will be back. But these are all of them. That's all of them. So let's see how they do. Alrighty, that's all of them. Let's see how they do. Bye-bye. Alright, so here's all of them. And it looks like they've all sealed. You can tell with Tattlers that they end up bowing in. And then they get this little like droplet. That dark spot in the center is like condensation droplet from the cooking. And so you can see them like sucked in, a little drop in the center on each of them. That First in one of them, see that little dark shadow? That's a droplet on the inside. Everything pulls to the center, all the moisture. So when it sucks it in, because it's concaved. And this one right here is not concaved yet. It's not bowed in. So this one might not have taken. But give it some time. It still might do it. It looks like it might be trying. We'll see. But this one, like right away, you see, I'll do a top angle. You can see that, how it's bowed in. And then see that one, how it's not. We'll do, I don't know if you can do side by side. And move it over just a little. I keep them separated. See? One's kind of, that one's, but anyways, I keep them separated while they're cooling. You can keep them a little bit closer, but try to keep them a little bit apart, because there's something called flat sour that you can get with canned goods. It's just, if you keep them warm too long after canning, then the food can turn sour. So you don't want that. You don't want to leave them in your canner overnight, because that will happen. I mean, some people get away with it, but some people aren't so lucky and get flat sour, making your food taste sour. It's just like, because of the warmth, it grows, and there's something in there, I forget what it is. So because it stays warm for so long, and you're keeping your jars from cooling down when they should be, there's like a bacteria that's not harmful at all. It just, and that's, you know, it's not even bacteria, because it kills everything. It's like an organism. Something happens to the food to make it sour. So that's why you just separate your jars a bit and take them out of the canner when you're supposed to. Okie dokie. Well, that's that. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.